Good evening. I'm Pam Fluette, the CEO of Tidemark Federal Credit Union. Welcome to our second virtual annual meeting. Participants will be muted during the meeting. However, you may submit questions and comments by clicking on the chat box on your screen. We'll be addressing a few questions submitted prior to the meeting. Questions submitted during the live session will be addressed after the meeting via email to all participants. During the meeting, you will be asked to vote on a few matters. The motion will appear on your screen. Please click yes or no. While we're collecting votes, we'll try to answer questions. I'd like to introduce John Lewis, our board chairman, to start the meeting.
Mr. Secretary, is a quorum of our members present?
Yes, a quorum is present.
I declare the 62nd annual meeting of the members of Tidemark Federal Credit Union in session. I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about what our credit union has been through in the last year and the effect it's had on a lot of our membership. We had to make a lot of changes. We had planning sessions and meetings about what we were going to do when our government mandated different things, a plan that we had to use. We shut down our Millsboro branch, and the reason our planning, our call center and our membership services was there, and if somebody got the virus there, we'd had to shut down the entire building, which would greatly affect our credit union and you as members. We've made a lot of changes and prepared for a lot of things that could possibly happen. And to be honest with you, we've had a really good year. We imagined, people losing their jobs, how it's going to affect people with illnesses, our staff. And it's been a very trying time, but it looks like there's light at the end of the tunnel. We did have one more or less disaster this year that I'd like to talk to you all about. We had a board member that passed away. I got an email one morning from Pam saying that Wayne and his wife Lois had contacted the COVID. And my first question was, how are they doing? She said, well, his wife is doing pretty well, Lois, but Wayne's not doing very well. I said, well, keep me posted. So I sent an email out to the board and tell them what had happened. Of course, I had a few calls, and I said, that's about all I know right now. So the next day or two, she called me and said, Wayne's still not doing very good. Lois is doing pretty well, and they're going to probably let her out of the hospital in the next couple of days. I said, well, keep me posted. So I sent that out to the board, and then a couple of days later, she says, Wayne's not doing very well at all, John. I said, well, I hope he's going to be okay. And later on that day, she said, well, they've given Wayne some treatments, and he seems to be doing okay. I said, well, great, maybe he's going to make it. The next morning she called me and Wayne had passed away. So that's been quite a loss for us here at the credit union. I met Wayne years and years ago. We both started working at the DuPont company, and we ended up working in the same area. And I didn't know Wayne, but we met each other on the same job. We did the same job, and we became pretty good friends. Years later, we had an opening on the board. A board member retired. And I called Wayne. I said, Wayne, would you like to serve on our board? He said, I'll call you back. That's Wayne. And he called me back later and said, I would love to serve. Well, Wayne served 17 years. Fantastic board member. Came up with good ideas. He just was a good person. Loved his family. He loved it. If you wanted to talk to Wayne, just ask him how his family is doing. And that brings me back to years ago, my wife Winnie was sick. And I came to the board meeting. When I walked through the door, Wayne says, John, how's Winnie doing? I said, Wayne, she's doing fine. For 2 or 3 meetings after that, I'd walk through the doorway and say, how's Winnie doing? And I'd always say, she's doing fine, Wayne. How's Lois doing? Well, it became a ritual between us. When I'd come through the door, we'd see which one was going to say it first, and most of the time it was at the same time, and we'd laugh. And I always thought of Wayne with things like that. When a person passes, you think of a lot of the nice things. But he is surely going to be missed by our credit union. Thank you. Okay, minutes. Please refer to the annual meeting booklet for the minutes of the 61st annual meeting. At this time, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the minutes.
We have a motion.
Is there a second?
We have a second.
Those in favor of approval of the minutes, click yes. Those opposed, click no.
I'll take the opportunity to answer a few questions while we wait for the vote to be counted. When will the Millsboro branch open? The branch will reopen on July 6th, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. When will the other branches reopen on Friday night and Saturday? We don't know at this point. We would have to increase staffing, and as every other business understands, staffing has been very difficult to come by. If you do have strong feelings about the extended hours in the branches, either for or against, please comment in the chat box. So far, we've had very limited reaction to the restrictions on hours. However, your input is very important to us. Back to you, John.
Okay. Mr. Secretary, do we have a count on the vote?
The vote was approved. Counts will be reflected in the meeting minutes.
Please refer to links on the screen of the Board of Supervisor Committee reports. At this time, I'd like to ask for a motion to accept the reports.
We have a motion.
Is there a second?
We have a second.
Those in favor of accepting the reports, click yes. Those opposed, click no.
I'll take the opportunity to discuss our mortgage program while we wait for the vote to be counted. Did you know that you can get either a fixed rate or variable rate mortgage at Tidemark Federal Credit Union? For an adjustable rate, if you plan to stay in your home for less than 7 to 10 years, this might be your best choice. You can finance up to 100% of loan amounts up to $350,000 with no private mortgage insurance. The savings on PMI is significant. You can finance up to $1 million with PMI. Rates stay fixed for 5 years and then adjust to a variable rate annually with caps on increases. We keep these loans in our portfolio. Many perks come with that, including flexibility in dealing with your mortgage holder and annual skip payments when desired. For our fixed rate, if you plan to stay in your home for more than 10 years, this might be your best choice. Finance up to 95% on loan amounts up to $548,250. Your interest rate never changes, so your principal and interest payments don't either. This requires PMI. Back to you, John.
Mr. Secretary, do you have a count of the votes?
The vote was approved. Counts will be reflected in the meeting minutes.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to introduce our board members and also our supervisory committee. Charlie Gleason, Junior Vice Chair. George Bush, Treasurer. Tom Interim, Secretary. And members, Ted Matthews, Hema Cabrera, and associate board members, Robert Scannell. He's one in training for our board. I'd like to introduce the supervisor committee. That's Teddy Matthews and members Ann France, Aaron Chafich, and Bob Scannell. At this time, I'd like to introduce our CEO, Pam Fluette. Most of you know Pam. She's been with us 15 years, and she's doing a great job for us. Pam.
Thank you, John. In April 2021, we broke $400 million in assets. We were named number 60 out of 1,727 credit unions rated by Standard & Poor's Global for our 2020 overall financial performance. We were the only credit union in Delaware to make the top 100. For the past several years, we have been rated a 5-star financial institution by Bauer Financial, a financial rating agency rating banks and credit unions since 1983. This is the highest possible rating. In the next slide, you'll see that we started 2020 as a $200 million credit union, and by April 2021, we surpassed $400 million, an increase of $110 million. That's exciting in many ways, but also presents a challenge to us. When funds come in, we have to place them in either loans or investments. The loan market is highly competitive, making it difficult and time-consuming to lend funds. If we can't put the funds into loans, we have to invest them. It's very difficult to get any yield on investment funds in the current market. While all financial institutions are facing a serious threat to capital as a result of reduced profits and rapid growth, Tidemark is fortunate to have very strong capital to easily carry us through this. Our capital ratio is strong at over 12% of assets, and as shown, we have about 11 million more in capital than the average credit union, adjusted for our asset size. The next slide shows our income for 2020. We ended 2020 with a $2.4 million profit. We provided a higher payout to our members compared to the peer average, approximately $825,000 more in 2020. Our business model stresses tightly controlled operating expenses. As shown, we spend approximately $5 million less in operating expense than our peer group, again adjusted for our asset size. This has and will continue to serve us very well in this market. Although not reflected on the table, we're not a fee-based financial institution. Our fees are approximately $2 million lower than the peer. I want to thank our staff for their cooperation and dedication, to our frontline staff for excellence in member service, to our back office staff for keeping our operations running smoothly in spite of ever-increasing complexities, and to our executive team for their leadership and inspiration. I'd like to introduce the following executive team members: Sherry Shockley, our Chief Financial Officer, Paul Steelman, our Chief Operations Officer, and Ashley Tyre, our Chief Human Resource Officer. Since establishing its scholarship program in 2014, Tidemark Federal Credit Union Foundation has awarded $30,000 to a total of 22 students to help them pursue their college dreams. This year, our foundation has awarded 3 $1,500 scholarships. In reviewing applications, we consider the following factors: scholastic achievement, school and community activities, awards or other recognitions, work history, essay responses, and letters of recommendation. The following individuals received scholarships thanks to private donations from Tidemark Federal Credit Union Vice Chair Charles Gleason. Cade Keeler is currently a sophomore at the University of Delaware, where he earned a spot on the Dean's List. Cade is enrolled in the Mechanical Engineering program, a dream of his since he was 13 years old. His true passion is cars, so his ultimate goal is to become an automotive engineer, where he will focus on better ways to eliminate harmful emissions to protect our environment and make vehicles safer for drivers. During high school, Cade was a captain of the varsity cross country and varsity football teams. His senior year, he was a WBOC Mount Air Scholar Athlete of the Month recipient, and he also spent a great deal of time volunteering for the Special Olympics, Little League, Howard T. Ennis, and Bayshore Community Church. Our next recipient is Cole Garlick. Cole is a senior at Milford Senior High School. He's been accepted to the University of West Virginia, where he plans to study aerospace engineering. He wants to specialize in propulsion and eventually join a team that designs a more powerful engine to help send the greatest rocket into space. Cole earned the prestigious title of Eagle Scout. He is a member of the FFA, Math League, National Honor Society, and Leo Club. With all of his club memberships, he has contributed many hours to community service events in Milford. We want to express our sincere thanks to Charles Gleason for his generosity in supporting the educational efforts of the young members of our credit union. The next individual received a $1,500 scholarship from a memorial fund created in 2020 to honor Wayne Obermeyer. Wayne served as secretary on our board of directors until his death in 2020. Cole White is currently a senior at Sussex Academy. He has been accepted to Washington College in Maryland, where he plans to major in biology and psychology. Once he completes his education, he hopes to practice either clinical or sports psychology, or possibly bring his education and talents to the FBI. Cole is the captain of the varsity soccer and varsity swim teams. He will continue playing soccer at Washington College. He volunteers as a referee and coach for River Soccer Club. He has also volunteered in North Georgetown Elementary, Woodland Ferry, and Power 2 Parkinson's 5K. We're grateful that the Obermeyer family chose Tidemark Federal Credit Union donation as the recipient of memorial donations in honor of Wayne. We miss his jovial personality and his many contributions to the board of directors. We congratulate our winners and wish them success. I'll turn the meeting back to John to discuss elections.
Okay. The nominee committee nominated incumbents Tom Interim and Hema Cabrera to 2 seats, 3-year terms for the board of directors. There's no nominations from the petition. The nominations are declared elected by general consent. If there are any questions that we need to address, please submit them through the chat feature, and we will address them in writing to all participants by email. Before we adjourn, there's a lot of people in the credit union that I'd like to give special thanks to. Our credit union was started in 1959 with 5 people putting up $5 each. Total assets of $35. You know, most of your financial businesses start with millions of dollars. This is an amazing story. When I got on the board in 1983, we were at 23 million. Last year in March, we were at 300 million. And Pam's already talked about where we are now at $400 million. That's a fascinating story. There's a lot of people in this organization that's done a lot of things right, from our CEOs to our staff to our board, and most of all, our members. We don't have a business without you members out there. And you've been so dedicated with us over the years that we really appreciate you a lot. The board, we've got a fantastic board. We disagree, but when we make a decision, we all support it. And our staff, there's just not enough words to talk about our staff, what we put them through in our membership, and the board and all for the last year has been phenomenal. We had to make a lot of decisions, weren't always favorable. We got very few negative reports, and we appreciate that. We've got staff that had to come to work. We did everything we could. We let people work at home, but we have a small amount of people that had to come to be there to service you. And I'd like to give a special thanks for that group of people. There's not much more I can say about the credit union, except it's just such a wonderful organization. And Pam has done a fantastic job with her leadership, with our staff, and guiding the board in some cases. So anyway, I'd like to thank you all for coming. We really appreciate you tuning in for our meeting. And I need a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion.
Do we have a second?
We have a second.
Those in favor click yes, and those click no.
I'd like to discuss our newest product, High Tide Checking, while we wait for the results of the vote. If you use your debit or credit card with us, you need to sign up for High Tide Checking. This account has 3 tiers. At the lowest tier, Tier 1, with 10 debit credit transactions a month, you earn 1% on your checking account and cash back of 1%, plus reimbursement for ATM fees. Some limitations do apply. Call us or go to our website for additional information. If you currently have cash back or high yield checking, you too should consider converting to High Tide Checking. Back to you, John.
Mr. Secretary, do we have a count on the votes?
The vote was approved. Counts will be reflected in the meeting minutes.
Thank you to everyone for attending our virtual annual meeting. At the end of the meeting, there will be one survey question about the virtual meeting. Please give us feedback by responding to the survey. We hope to see you next year. Good night.